say the skies of Lebanon are burning, those mighty cedars bleed in the heat. They're showing pictures on the television, women, children dying in the street. And we're still at it in our own place, still trying to reach the future through the past, still trying to carve tomorrow from a tombstone. But hey, don't listen to me, 'cause This wasn't meant to be no sad song. I've heard too much of them before. Right now I only wanna be here with you until the morning dew comes falling. Yeah. I wanna take you to the island, trace your footprints in the sand, and in the evening when the sun goes down, we'll make love to the sound of the ocean. They're raising banners over by the markets, whitewashing slogans on our shipyard walls, witch doctors praying for a mighty showdown. There's no way our holy flag is gonna fall. Up here we sacrifice our children, warn our dreams of yesterday, and teach them dying will lead us into glory. But hey, don't listen to me, this wasn't meant to be no sad song. I've sung too much of them before. Right now I only wanna be here with you until the morning dew comes falling. I wanna take you to the island, trace your footprints in the sand, and in the evening when the sun goes down, we'll make love to the sound of the ocean. I wanna take you to the island, trace your footprints in the sand, and in the evening when the sun goes down, we'll make love to the sound of the ocean. I wanna take you to the island, trace your footprints in the sand, and in the evening when there's no one around, we'll make love to the sound of the ocean. And in the evening when there's no one around, we'll make love to the sound of the ocean.
Well, good evening. Welcome to another Restore Live on a Wednesday evening. Going out live to the Restore UK channel, that's on Facebook, also to the British Unionist People's Voice on Facebook, to Restore UK on Twitter, and also to Restore UK on YouTube. And I have to say the numbers, I guess, because of the title of the screen this evening, the title of the screen being, well, what has been on your news the last few days? Ooh, ah, up the rah. But let's forget about their victims. Let's forget that they ever maimed, murdered, killed, shot, blew up to death, shard with glass. Let's forget all of that. Let's forget that baby Alan Jack in Abercorn Square in Strabane in 1972, from my recollection, when the IRA planted a bomb, when the mother of the baby was asked to move the child, only to be showered with glass and only to be absolutely obliterated with glass. Let's forget things like Le Mans. Let's forget the Enniskillen bombing. Let's forget all of that and let's teach our children. Let's have our children celebrate the barbarous murder of IRA terrorists. Once a year, there's a festival on the Falls Road. That festival is it called, what is it, Fila and Phobal? I hope it's said right because I don't speak Irish. And there are many, many people that goes to that festival every year. And that festival culminates once a year in well, a sectarian hate fest. And that festival, it's funded with public money, agreed by Unionists. I don't know what happened there, but we'll keep going anyway. But agreed, there's a funding which goes to that festival every single year, in the knowledge that, well, last evening I would have seen a video from 7 or 8 years ago, and I've got to ask myself the question: what has ever changed with reference to that hate fest, which is located each and every year on the Falls Road, in where what they do is they celebrate and they glorify terrorism. They glorify terrorists. They glorify the same type of terrorists that would have murdered children. Shankill Road, the 23rd of October in 1993. Michelle Bird, a little child out to buy a wreath for her grandfather, with her mother and her father, blew up, killed outright. Yet we have people in 2022, and what are they doing? They are still glorifying these terrorists who carried out all of those acts, which is totally unacceptable. So what I want to do this evening is I want to try to look at why it is that this happens. Recently, I traveled to Greece. On the plane was a group of young people from the Newry and Armagh area, from around the border. Mike and Armagh is where they were saying that some of them were for. I have to say, some very nice young people. Well, that was until they got a few drinks in them, and that was until that they started singing on the bus, "Ooh, ah, up the Ra." Now, some of these children that are singing these songs, they don't even know. They weren't around whenever these murderous terrorists were murdering and maiming our loved ones. Not just our loved ones on the Unionist side of the fence, I may add, but they were murdering and maiming also Catholics. That song that we just played, there's a bit in that song where it says that, young men dying in the ditches. Is this what being free is all about? And yet they continue to glorify this organization, the IRA, namely, and in a way that would, well, it would offend the families, the living family members of the people who have been murdered and maimed throughout the years. I mean, what is the mark of a civil society? What is the mark of a society which is, I guess, which has sympathies for those that have paid the price of maybe losing loved ones in the so-called conflict that was here in Northern Ireland? What is the mark of a society whenever society would turn a blind eye? Whenever journalists from within this society, key women journalists, I may add, and we'll get on to that very soon, whenever they would try to make light of these people, these young people, thousands of young people in Falls Park singing "Ooh Ah Up the Ra" every year, celebrating and glorifying these terrorists, and in a way that, well, as said before, that many, many, many victims, many of the victims' families, many living victims today in 2022, well, each and every time they see that, well, they are absolutely appalled. And, well, some have told me whenever I had interviewed them about this type of thing, some has told me that well, what it does is it brings them back. It adds insult to their injury. It makes them realize that, well, the Belfast Agreement, it was a disguise. It was built for appeasement, swindle, and lies. The pieces of farce, as you'll have seen in that video, the IRA guns are still there, shooting over the coffin of Mr. Rooney, Lower Falls D Company of the IRA. The pieces of farce, the IRA guns are still there, and that same IRA continues to rub salt into the wounds of each and every person that they have, the families of the people that they have killed and murdered and blew up and terrorized over the years. It adds insult to the injury of those victims' families. Well, that is a mark of our society. The real mark of this society is that it seems to be a society which doesn't care. It seems to be a society made up of politicians, and that goes for politicians on both sides of our divide. No matter why it's Unionist politicians, no matter why it's Republican or nationalist politicians, people in the media, what they seem to do is they seem to make light of this thing that happens every year, and it doesn't really matter about the IRA victims. Up the Ra, but let's forget that they ever made any victims. Let's forget that there's grieving families out there that has lost their loved ones to this murderous organization. Let's forget that these people, well, lots of them were released from jail. Let's forget that these people were given a leg up into our government. Let's forget that they have immunity from prosecution for doing what they have done. Let's forget all of that. And let's let them now celebrate the murderous deeds and the murderous acts of this IRA, which continues to hold our society to ransom and which continues to add insult to the injury of the victims to which they have made. I find it very, very hard to find words or to put into words what it is that I see in front of my very eyes. And I find it really, really hard whenever I see and hear people on the BBC, journalists in the Belfast Telegraph, journalists who write for some of the Irish papers, whenever I see these people saying that everybody has a right to, respect those that they would align with. But should this be a right? Should it be a right for you to glorify terrorism and in a way that adds insult to the injury of victims? That's a real question for people from within the society to which we live. And then ask a question, which is a very, very serious question. Why is it that this is happening? Why is it that this has never been nipped in the bud? Why is it that this boil, this poison, why is it that it's been left in place? And why is it that it continues to spread its poison throughout our society? Where's the Justice Minister? Where is the PSNI? Where is the judiciary? Where is the government? Where are those that are meant to serve and protect every single one of us, namely the politicians? Why are they not insisting that this is stamped out and this is stamped out for good? Let's remind you of where that it is that this comes from and why that it is that it's infecting the minds of young people from within our society. And I showed you a little video clip just at the start of this stream of young people walking in IRA corteges, in marches, in the early 70s, and how that it was that this murderous, evil organization, well, they weren't satisfied with the adults from within that community going out and doing whatever it is that they thought that their political allegiances thought that they would need to do. They weren't satisfied with that. What they did was they brought their children into this evil organization also, and they indoctrinated their children. And to this day, they still indoctrinate their children. Where is social services whenever this type of thing continues to this day? Let's remind ourselves of what it is that has happened in the past few days. And before we start playing some of the stuff that we have here on screen, let's just ask everyone to tag into the live chat anyone that you think that might need to see this screen. Tag, just write in some names there. Invite people to come along and to watch what it is that we have prepared, in order that they can get an understanding that this has to be from anyone who of a right mind. This has to be totally unacceptable. And let's look at where the blame fairly and squarely lies. Starting off with a video that the organizers of Fela and Phobal, well, they wouldn't have wanted you to see. This wasn't the video that was on the news. This wasn't the video that the outrage was over. This group called the Wolf Tones, who continuously sing this song called Ooh Ah Up the Ra, Chucky Our La. This video that we're about to play, well, it is even worse than that. And yet this continues to happen each and every year at this publicly funded festival, this hate fest, which is infecting the minds of so many young people in Northern Ireland today. Why is this permitted to happen? So here we go, starting off with video number 1.
Chucky,
So there's a video from a group calling itself Shebeen and singing a song glorifying terrorism, talking of SAM missiles in the sky, SAM 7 missiles. Where was it the SAM 7 missiles came from? And there's a question to the live chat, and I would like for anyone on any of the platforms to be able to tell us, put it into the live chat, where is it that SAM 7 missiles came from, and how that it is that they ended up in the hands of this evil organization who continuously wants and seeks to indoctrinate children. Now, again, just let's add that to the stream for 2 seconds. I just want to ask the question about this, but and this is the live chat again, but that is culture. That is nationalist or Republican culture. That is a cultural evening. That is a cultural event. And what they are doing is that they're glorifying murder. They're literally glorifying murder. And again, we show this because that we want to ask the question. It's okay saying up the Ra. It's okay saying that. But let's forget about the victims of this organization. Let's forget that we have the Birds, Evelyn Bird's family. People who were very close to me. Blown up in the Shankill bomb, Evelyn Bird, young Michelle Bird. Let's forget that there are, Michael Morrison. Let's forget all of those victims, those innocent victims. Let's forget Aileen Quinton's mum in the Enniskillen bomb. Totally innocent again, going out to, in an act of remembrance to remember the war dead. When a no warning IRA bomb at a time known as the Poppy Day Massacre, let's remember that those evil terrorists decided to plant the bomb when people were remembering their dead, slaughtering people when they were remembering their dead. Let's forget baby Alan Jack, Abercorn Square in Strabane. 5 months old, 6 months old, shard with glass, completely killed to death with a shower of glass coming from an IRA bomb. Let's forget, let's say Le Mans, where they incinerated people. Let's forget that they created victims whose family members are alive today. I mean, are these people involved in a peace process? Are these people involved in a process in where that they seek nothing but to wind up and to stir up and to agitate, the other community that is meant to be involved in a peace process with them? Now, these are very, very serious questions. Up the Ra, but let's forget about all of their victims. Let's forget about the adding of the insult each and every year and each and every time that we hear them speaking. Let's forget about all of those victims. Let's brush it under the carpet. Let's forget that the perpetrators of these acts, the ones that were caught, the ones that were in jail at the time whenever the Belfast Agreement was signed, the ones that got out on their license, let's forget about all of that. Let's forget about Sean Kelly, one of the perpetrators of the Shankill bomb, who killed, those innocent children in that bomb, along with the adults also. Let's just wipe all that under the carpet and pretend that this never happened and pretend that we have a very successful peace process. But let's also try to understand who's responsible for where we are today. Who's responsible for these people that continue to ratchet things up, to stir things up, to wind things up in a way that people can't forget. The insult continues to be added to the injury of the victims. Let's pretend that everything is sweet, everything is rosy, and you know, well, the IRA, they don't exist anymore. The Sinn Féiners are the only ones that exist, and they're your friend. Let's also forget that we have an incoming First Minister who represents this terrorism, who represents the people who carried out this terrorism, who represents, well, who's aligned with in a way by which that her family members were in this organization carrying out these evil deeds. Let's forget about all of that. And let's pretend it never happened. And let's reach out. Let's put the bitterness and the hatred of the past behind us. And let's all embrace republicanism in this new Ireland. Let's embrace this First Minister for all, and in a way that, well, we pretend that none of this had ever happened. I hope you can do that because, well, as for me, I'll tell you what I think very, very soon. But I wonder, does our unionist politicians, I wonder, can they pretend that this never happened? I wonder, can they pretend that insult isn't being added to the victim's injury? I wonder, can they pretend that IRA terrorists have immunity from prosecution whilst others are still dragged through the courts and tried for what it was that happened in the past? I don't know about you. I don't know about this live chat, but what do I see? Well, I see an uneven playing field. I see insult being added to injury. I see the glorifying of terrorism contrary to the terrorism laws. I see a PSNI which aren't taking these people to task. I see a judiciary which are doing absolutely nothing about it. I see a justice minister in the Alliance Party. Yes, that thing, Naomi Long, which would turn a blind eye to this type of thing, but would, well, jump on anything that any would come from a unionist side of this equation. I see a very unfair society. I see a society which is becoming more unpalatable as each and every day passes. That's what I see. I don't know about you, but I would ask you to leave messages in the live chat and tell me what it is that you see. Because I fail to see anything good. All that I ever see is terrorism being glorified, victims being re-traumatized, and, well, one community, I don't know how to even say this, but they're good peacemakers, aren't they? Let's try to understand where this comes from. Let's play another video clip as we go.
2004, I was elected as a councillor for Sinn Féin. And I was elected as a TD last time round. Is that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael come together and form a coalition to block Sinn Féin. And if they do, comrades, we'll stand two candidates here in Waterford the next time. We want to finish with this because we are United Irelanders. And I was too young to remember it, but I heard of people in this room who canvassed for Kevin Lynch back in 1981, one of the hunger strikers. When he first embarked on a hunger strike with Bobby Sands and all of those comrades, he was the H Block candidate here in this constituency.
And let's just stop there for a moment and let's try to understand what is happening before your very eyes here. What you will see here, closest to here, the closest picture to me, is a man called, is it David Cullinan? We'll say it that way. And he is a Sinn Féin representative from Waterford area. Now, whenever he was elected in the, let's get this right, is it January or February of 2021? This is the speech that he gave after his election. Now, listen very carefully to this Sinn Féin councillor and listen to what it is that he has to say. And then let's again ask this question. Up the ra. Let's forget about the IRA victims and then ask the question, who is responsible for this hate? Who is responsible for this hate fest, which you see every year? Who is responsible for infecting the minds of these young people? Who is responsible for, well, not allowing reconciliation in this country to take place? Who is responsible for adding insult to the victims, to the IRA victims, to the victims' families? Who is responsible for not letting this country move forward? Ask yourself that question. Now let's hear what it is that Mr. Cullinan would have said in this little video clip.
They didn't break the hunger strikers. They didn't break Bobby Sands and Kevin Lynch. They'll never break us. They'll never break Sinn Féin. And what we say is up the Republic, up the Ra, and Chucky our law.
So up the Republic, up the Ra, and Chucky our law. That's what he said. That's a Sinn Féin TD. Somebody in the Irish style. Who wants to be part of their new Ireland? If this is what you get now, what is it you get when you get there? You know, they can't just say that this is Northern Ireland. This is the Republic of Ireland. This is the party of Mary Lou McDonald. This is what Mary Lou McDonald supports, promotes, stands up for, and suggests. We won't let them be criminalised. The same IRA that murdered and maimed your loved ones. And let's ask that question again. Ooh, ah, up the Ra, and forget about their victims. Is that what we're meant to do? Are we meant to turn a blind eye whenever insult is added to the injury of the people that they murdered? And they are glorifying in the murder of those innocent people. Is that what we're expected to take? Because if it is, I'm not part of it. I am not in. I don't know about you, but I'm certainly going to be no part of taking that from these terrorist-loving sympathizers. And they're good words that I use. Let's play the rest of this and get it off the screen, and let's move on and understand some more. So there we go. There are two examples of ooh, ah, up the Ra, adding insult to the injury of the victims that the IRA terrorists have created, whilst that they're bedfellows, the people that glorify them, whilst that they add insult to the injury of victims in this country. This is the United Kingdom. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom, and in this country, the terrorism laws does not allow for the glorification of terrorism. And yet these people seem to be doing this with impunity, without any repercussions. Well, that's because, of course, that we don't have a proper justice minister. We have a justice minister that is part of this nationalist Republican front. That's because we have a justice minister that wants to align with the socialists in this side, the terrorist sympathizing, glorifying socialists, which continues to hold this society to ransom. Now ask yourself a question. When we have a justice minister like that, one namely Naomi Long, when we have a justice minister like that, well, what do we expect? Why are our unionist politicians putting up with this? Why are our unionist politicians, Jeffrey Donaldson, Doug Beattie, why are they putting up with this? Why are they permitting Naomi Long to continue in her job whenever there's no repercussions for adding insult to the injury of the victims that these people have already created? Put yourself in the shoes of a family member. I know many of them. Some of them were my friends. Put yourself in the shoes of family members who has lost family to these people. and listening to the glorification of their excuses and their, and their lack of remorse for the things that which they have done. And that goes from the top of Sinn Féin to the bottom of Sinn Féin. Let's remove this from the screen and let's move on. Tag people into the live chat. Give us a like, give us a love, give us a share. We have a few more videos to go. We're focusing specifically on this area today because it needs to be focused on. And this is something that our community, that our politicians, well, they can't let it go. Because if they do, well, they are responsible. They are culpable. They are facilitating this to happen year in, year out. And it's totally unacceptable. It has got to be unacceptable to any right-minded individual. Don't let yourself be sanitized to what it is that's going on here. Don't let yourself be accepting of the turning in a blind eye by the PSNI, not implementing the law, the Justice Minister not enforcing and not insisting that the law should be acted upon. Don't accept this. You can't accept this. This has to be stirred against. So removing that from the screen, and let's move on, and let's now try to understand. Well, we had the singing of the glorifying of shooting SAM missiles into the air by IRA terrorists. Glorifying terrorism isn't culture. Glorifying terrorism isn't music. Glorifying terrorism is against the law. So why aren't these people arrested for glorifying this terrorism? There's another question. Why are these people not charged with glorifying terrorism, adding insult to the injury of victims, stirring up unrest within society? Why are these people not made amenable to the law? Ask another question. Do we live in a society in where everybody is subject to and equal under the same law? Or are you like me? Do you see a hierarchy of rights for some? Do you see that some people are untouched by the repercussions of their actions? Is this an appeasement process? Is this that they can do anything they want type of process? Is this what this is? Because if it is, it should be unacceptable to you the same way in which it is unacceptable to me and any right-minded individual. Is this what we want for our society? Are we going to turn a blind eye whilst this happens year in, year out, whilst the media, they put it on the media for a day, then what they do is they try to change the narrative, and then it goes back to kicking Unionists for having the audacity to stand up for their birthright, for having the audacity to suggest that their democracy has been taken away, that they were not afforded their democratic right from within the Brexit referendum, all because of the threat of the same violence by the same terrorists and the same political party linked to terrorists, namely Sinn Féin. Let's play another video and let's now see how far this goes, this glorification of terrorism, this excuse for murder and mayhem of young people. Let's see how high in this organization that this turn a blind eye approach goes, that this, unacceptable rhetoric coming from those in political power. Let's see how high within the Sinn Féin organization that this would go. Let's play another video and let's understand, well, what it is that the leader of Sinn Féin believes when it comes to terrorism.
Up the Republic, up the rebels, and it's Chucky our law.
Let's play that again.
Hela, up the Republic, up the rebels, and it's Chucky our law.
So there you will have heard Mary Lou McDonald. And again, we'll just play it again for clarification.
Hela, up the Republic, up the rebels, agus Chucky our law.
So Mary Lou MacDonald, up the Republic, up the rebels, Chucky our law, then ask the question again. Up the Ra, forget about the many victims, the child killers, victims. Forget about the families of those children that lost their lives, innocent children. Let's forget about that. And let's permit these people, let's permit the leader of Sinn Féin to glorify in this. Is this the type of society that you want to live in? Is this the type of society that anyone could call normal? Has this society been totally infested by the causes of this Belfast appeasement process, which has led to the position in where that glorifying terrorism is okay, contrary to the terrorism laws that are available today? Is this acceptable to you? Because it's certainly not acceptable to me, and it should not be acceptable to any right-minded individual, no matter where that right-minded individual comes from. No matter why you're a nationalist, a Catholic, a Protestant, or a Unionist, or other. I mean, surely you can't find this acceptable. Let's have a look at some more. Let's have a look at some more of this before that we move on. So let's now look again at some of the young people, from within this community. These young people that has had their minds absolutely infested and infected by this hatred, by this sectarianism, by this glorifying terrorism. What they are actually doing, and they don't even realize it, is they are glorifying and they are celebrating the murder of young children, young innocent children. And I hope that they watch this. I hope that they can get this into their heads. Let's listen to some more. I think we'll play that again for clarification. Now, these are young people. These kids they weren't even born whenever this murdering terrorist scum were out murdering young children. They weren't even born at that time. Let's play that again. So again, we ask the question, these young ladies in the GAA, who do we blame for their minds being infected with this sectarianism, with this hatred, with this glorifying of terrorism, with this glorifying of child murderers? Who do we blame? Who can we blame for this? Well, we can see that we blame that guy Cullinan from the Waterford area, who is a TD, part of the Irish Parliament, part of the Irish Dáil, when he would have said, up the Ra, Chucky our law, glorifying terrorism, talking about, the hunger strikers and glorifying in the hunger striker. Martin Lynch, he was glorifying him. Let's remove this from the studio. And what they try to tell you is that they have the right to add insult to the injury of IRA victims. They have a right to do this. They think it is their right to add insult to the injury of the many victims to which they have created, contrary to the terrorist laws. Well, they're getting away with it. They're getting away with it. But there's another question. Why are they getting away with it? Let's play one more video from the video files that we have here, and then we'll go to something else from Mary Lou McDonald. But I want to just first and foremost play this, and then we'll get back to drilling down into, and we're not really staying here for long. This is about up the Ra. Let's forget about the victims. Let's turn a blind eye. Let's pretend everything is okay. Let's not question if our politicians are doing a good job, holding these people to account, ensuring that justice ministers would be insisting that the law is followed through. Why are they part of this corrupt system, which would allow for the adding insult to the injury of the many IRA victims throughout the years? Why are our politicians playing this game? Let's listen to this before that we move on.
People have been hurt and injured.
Were you apologising for the killing of Lord Mountbatten?
For all of those, I was actually asked in the context of, if you met Prince Charles, what would you say? And I pointed out that I have in fact met him, and that it is my belief that all of us, people like me, Republican leaders like me and others, recognise that the conflict is over. We are not refighting the conflict battle by battle.
No.
I am heartbroken for everyone that was
just
injured.
to get where you're at on that issue.
Regret, including, I was asked then about Lord Mountbatten, including him. I mean, their family was bereaved and children were killed on that day.
Was it wrong that the man who detonated that bomb as he looked out from Mullaghmore, was it wrong that he did it on that day?
It was an act that happened in the context of a war, and you know, truthfully, the whole scenario was wrong. It was wrong that Ireland was partitioned. It was wrong that people suffered.
But was it wrong that he detonated that bomb as he looked out and he saw children on that boat?
Well, I don't know that that is the case. What I do know is that suffering happened on that day, and suffering happened on lots of other days. And I also know that I am a leader of Sinn Féin now in the year 2021, in a time of peace, Fran, and my job is not so much to apportion blame or to go down the rabbit holes.
If we try and move on and we try and move forward and people are mature on reflection, the reality of what happened was an IRA member looked out, saw children on a boat, saw Lord Mountbatten on a boat, and he detonated a bomb. And it's a simple thing. Like, is it a big bridge to say that was wrong?
Well, it's certainly no bridge at all to say that that was deeply, deeply saddening, deeply hurtful, and war itself is wrong, if that assists you. But I'm not, at this stage of the peace process, when so many families are still waiting for truth on all sides, when people still need to step up and deliver that, I'm not getting into that. My job is to lead for now and to lead for the future.
He detonated that bomb as he looked out and he saw.
Now, let's just rewind that back for a moment or two, and let's get to a point on this little clip where I was looking, right? Okay, we'll start from about here, and I want people to pay particular attention to these words from the leader of Sinn Féin. You know, these are the people that are saying that they want to make peace with us. These are the people that want to embrace us. These are the people that want to entice and encourage you into joining them in this so-called New Ireland. Are they doing a good job? Are they having any impact? Is there any takers for their New Ireland whenever this is the way that they operate? Let's just play what this, I can't even qualify with what this is. Let's play what this said, and then, well, we'll talk about what this has just said.
And in the context of a war, and, you know, truthfully, the whole scenario was wrong. It was wrong that Ireland was partitioned. It was wrong that people suffered. It was wrong
that he detonated that bomb as he looked out and he saw children on that boat?
Well,
So now let's remove that from the screen and let's talk about what that just said. I mean, that said in the context of a war. It was in the context of a war. And the man said there, the interviewer, well, when they looked out and they seen the children on Lord Mountbatten's boat, is that what soldiers do? Do they blow up children? Well, because we know that they done that many, many, many times over. We named a few of the children that was killed. And that's the leader of Sinn Féin. That is the party for all. In Northern Ireland, Michelle O'Neill, and we could have been through loads of clips depicting what these people continuously say. At the start, you would have seen Barry McElduff with a Kingsmill loaf on his head on the anniversary of the Kingsmill massacre, in where 10 innocent Protestants lost their lives. From my recollection, there was 11 people. Somebody will correct me in the live chat if I'm wrong. There was one Catholic. But those people losing their lives, innocent people going to do a day's job, and these murderous terrorist scum, they decided to take their lives. And she says, in the context of a war, was it okay for, I'll use the name again, Alan Jack in Abercorn Square in Strabane, a baby of 5 months old, being showered with glass, and absolutely, and I'm going to use these harsh words, but perforated with these showers of glass. Was that okay in the context of a war? These people they don't have an ounce of sense, number one. Number two, they have no thought processes for the injury, the insult that they're adding to the injury of the victims, of the people that they support, the dumbness. These people are not for creating peace with. These people should be locked up. It should be unacceptable for people like that to be on the media. If you agree with me, you leave that in the live chat. But that's what the leader of Sinn Féin in the South would have said, that it was okay in the context of a war. And she's not going to get into the whataboutery of who done what and who done what. If it was a war, well, you know what war criminals are due. They're due to be delivered to The Hague and tried for war crimes. Killing children, decapitating children. These evil, murderous, terrorist scum. And yet they have indoctrinated their children into glorifying these people. Year in, year out, day in, day out. But now it has reached totally unacceptable levels. As I said earlier, at the start of last month, I was on my way to Greece, and a group of kids on the bus, that weren't even born whenever this conflict would have been raging, they began singing "Ooh, Ah, Up the Ra." And it was only because that I was with people that I didn't stand up and challenge them and ask them what it was that they were singing about. Are they singing about the Alan Jack in Abercorn Square? Is that what they're glorifying? I didn't want to cause the people that I was with embarrassment, and that's why I didn't challenge these kids for glorifying these evil, murderous, terrorist scum who continue to put back reconciliation in this country, well, indefinitely, if I've anything to do with it. So let's play one more video from Mary Lou MacDonald. And then what we want to try to do is that we want to try to move on to a leader from within the Republican movement who would have recently died. And we want to show people how that it is that they've been holding our society to ransom, how that it is that a justice minister would be turning a blind eye, how that it is that our unionist politicians are not doing the job we elect them to do, how that it is that the PSNI are in complete dereliction of their duty, how that it is that this society has become a cesspit of corruption, and all because of an appeasement process that began, well, if you look at it in reality, sometime in 1993 going forward, and has lasted from that day until this. We are being held hostage under the threat of IRA violence, and to add insult to the injury of the people that is being held hostage, well, we've now had our democracy removed. We now do not qualify for the democratic right to be treated in the same way as people in England, Scotland, and Wales. We are, well, half out of the UK, half in the UK. You know, we don't know whether we belong to the UK or we belong to the EU, or we're being pushed into a new Ireland. We do not know where we stand in this country, and all because of these people who continue to use the threat of violence to hold this country to ransom. Let's play this video and let's understand what's really in the mind of the leader of Sinn Féin. Whenever she says, when she's talking about people like Francis Hughes, who is noted and it suggested that he was part of a gang that placed a bomb in a car, which had the result whereby that a young child was decapitated. Let's just listen to what this lady, Mary Lou McDonald, what it is that she's standing up for. Whenever she said, we will not let them be criminalised. We will not let child murderers be criminalised.
Today, Irish Republicans commemorate the sacrifice and celebrate the lives of our hunger strikers. The 1981 hunger strike was a pivotal moment in Irish history, which saw Republican prisoners thwart British government efforts to criminalise the struggle for a united Ireland. And here in Ireland, Republicans remember with deep pride the sacrifice and the heroism of those who died in the H-blocks. Francis Hughes, Raymond McCreesh, Thomas McElwee. We will not allow them to be criminalised ever. 10 who took a stand, 10 who could not be broken, 10 lives cut short, 10 grieving families. Ten figures who will never be forgotten.
We will not let them be criminalised. 10 heroes, 10 figures who will never be forgotten. Francis Hughes. Well, go and do some research and find out who Francis Hughes was. Find out who McElwee was. Find out who that it was that they were associated with back in the day. And Mary Lou will not let them be criminalised. What about their victims? Up the Ra is effectively what Mary Lou McDonald is saying. And we will not let them be criminalised. Forget about their victims. Doesn't matter about them. The measure of the society in which we live should be putting victims as absolute paramount. But yet the appeasement of terrorists is what this appeasement process has become. And to add insult to the injury, well, it doesn't stop. It continues. It gets worse. It gains momentum. Don't let yourself be sanitized to this corruption. You know, it's unacceptable. It's got to remain unacceptable. And anybody that would think that this is acceptable, well, they've got to be unacceptable to you and to I and to everyone else in this society. Now, we're going to come to a close quite soon, and we're staying totally on this subject. And it's to press home a point. What right-minded unionist would want to share power with that whilst this goes on? What right-minded unionist would want to share power with that? First Minister for all. You know, the IRA campaign was justified. Didn't I hear Michelle O'Neill just saying that a few days ago? But yet she wants to be a First Minister for victims. She wants to be a justice or a First Minister for little Michelle Bird's extended family, Evelyn Bird's extended family. I know that if I ask, the Birds, what they'll tell me is that acceptable to you as a First Minister for all? Is it acceptable to you that Jeffrey Donaldson would share power with that? Whilst this is going on, whilst the insult is being added to your injury each and every day and getting worse as the days, as the weeks, as the months, and as the years would go on. So to focus on this just isn't the Republicans in Northern Ireland, to focus on that and remembering that man, Cuileann, well, didn't he say that up the ra, chucky arla, and who do we blame for these minds of these young children being infested with this sectarianism, with this bigotry, with this hatred, with this glorifying of terrorism, and with this adding insult to the injury of the IRA victims? Who do we blame for those young people in Falls Park, in Fila and Phobal, in their cultural event? Who do we blame for those young children being the way that they are? Whenever that we see that these leading Sinn Féiners on a daily basis, they glorify terrorism. They stand over monuments to people who murdered our nearest and dearest and carried out the murders of these young children. Who do we blame for these young children's minds being infected? We'll get to that in a moment. But firstly, I want to play you a little video from something that I done about a year and a half ago. Whenever I interviewed a man from the Irish Republic, whenever these same IRA terrorists, well, they were freeing Ireland, one Garda member at a time, one Irish Army member, official Irish Army member at a time. And this is David Kelly as he talks about his father, Paddy Kelly, as his father went to, try to free someone that this evil IRA terrorist organization had kidnapped. Well, when David's father, Paddy, went to do that, both himself and a young Garda Síochána, they lost their lives. You see, the IRA killed more nationalists and Catholics than anyone in this dirty little war ever. They killed more of their own people, but they don't glorify in that. And these kids, I wonder, do they know this history? I wonder, do they know that history? Do they know that part? Will Mary Lou McDonald not let the people that murdered Patrick Kelly and the young Garda Síochána, the people that done that, are they criminals? They were killing Irish citizens out to free another Irish citizen. Let's listen to what David Kelly has to say, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk some more. We're really not staying here this evening because we wanted to focus solely on this up the ra. Forget about the victims. We will not let them be criminalised. We should allow Sinn Féin to continue to glorify the terrorists in a way that would totally offend the IRA victims. And, well, we'll all be happy. We'll all embrace each other in the Great Hall in Stormont, and we'll all pretend that it didn't happen. Let's listen to David Kelly as he talks about his father and how that it is that the insult is being added to his injury every time he goes to visit a monument to his father. You're a victim, a real life victim. You probably are traumatized and re-traumatized by some of the actions of these people even today, and their lack of remorse, I guess, for what had happened. I mean, David, what exactly are you fighting for? Is it truth? Is it justice?
Well, I guess I would have as a reaction to what happened to us, me and my family, my mother and my younger brothers, we all moved to London, so we were sort of out of the picture in our formative years. But I returned as a young man, and I looked around and said, who killed my father? And how is my father being remembered, or is he just going to be forgotten completely? A footnote in the history books. And then as I made more and more inquiries into what happened to my father, I was saying someone should be held to account, and I was thinking along the lines of, yes, someone in a court of law being found guilty. So, that's where I would have been coming from. In more recent years, like it's 37 years this year since it happened, I'm not so much interested in someone serving a prison sentence, to be honest, at this stage, but it's more to just have someone held accountable in some form, whether it's in a criminal or civil court, or there's a public inquiry. I know there's other methods like coroner's court and so forth. It's just to have someone held to account, so it should be remembered in the history books of what actually happened on that day, and there could be no muddying of the waters. I mean, for years, what I call the Provisional Republican Movement, which includes Sinn Féin, would have spread the malicious rumours that my father was actually killed in a friendly fire incident, and it was all covered up by the authorities. So that's a constant lie I've had to deal with for years. So that's where I'm at. It's just getting that truth out there. I reckon the sacrifice my father made, we don't have a state. We don't get to a point like where you have elected TDs walking around Dáil Éireann actually saying that the Provisional IRA armed struggle was legitimate and nobody actually countering them. I'm here to say, hold on, what about my father and the Young Garda and the others who were killed, the other members of the Irish security forces and civilians? Their lives mattered, and you'd be spitting on their graves if you don't stand up and speak on their behalf when these people make their ludicrous claims. The Army, in collaboration with the council, put up a lovely memorial plaque for my father, a memorial stone, I should say, and it's lovely, but only a short distance away is a memorial to an IRA hunger striker, Kieran Hertzon. So every time I stand and admire my father's stone, but then only a matter of yards away is a memorial stone to a man from the organisation that murdered my father. So I'm reminded every time I see that. I'm also reminded, like last year I had the president of Sinn Féin. She said the legitimate armed struggle was justified, and that if she had been a bit older and had lived in Northern Ireland, she would have joined up as a volunteer. And for me to hear a leading Irish politician say that was re-traumatizing for me.
We listened to David, and I have to say that whenever I was interviewing David, I have to say the tears would have came to my eyes whenever that he was saying that, he was speaking in a heartfelt way, and he was saying that, that the leader of Sinn Féin are glorifying these people. If people are going to be walking around in Dáil Éireann, that's their parliament in the south, glorifying terrorism and justifying what it is that the IRA have done. All that David Kelly wants to do is to stand up for his innocent father who worked for the Irish Army, who was tasked to go and free a businessman called Don Tidy, who had been abducted by the IRA. These were Maze escapees who escaped across the border, who decided that they wanted to hold this Irish citizen to ransom for money. And whenever they were pursued, it resulted in the death of David's father, Patrick Kelly, and a young Garda, Síochána. And whenever you talk to that man, as I say, you can't help but your heart has to go out to him. There are people in the south, all over the south, that suffered by the hands of these evil parasites, and yet people turn a blind eye. That because that they have to be part of an appeasement process, well, they seemingly they can do anything they want, contrary to the terrorism laws. Without the PSNI taking them to task, without the Justice Minister insisting that they should be took to task, without the government insisting that they should be took to task, without the Irish government insisting that they should be took to task, they can indoctrinate their children. They can cause hate fest. They can cause the re-traumatizing of their victims. They continuously do that, and yet no one wants to tackle them. Well, I'm going to say that that is unacceptable. I'm going to say that any unionist politician that doesn't want to take these people to task, well, we should be taking them to task for their inability, for their unwillingness, for them imagine letting our society to get to this point in where that if you're a victim, well, you can be re-traumatized every time that these people open their mouths. That's unacceptable. We shouldn't be living like this, and we need to fight this on the basis of, well, everyone has rights. Victims has rights. Victims has more rights than these terrorists. These terrorists, the full weight of the law should be brought upon them for their glorifying terrorism, the same way as it would be brought towards anyone else in a stable democracy. Well, a place like Northern Ireland. It's totally unacceptable. Now, before we go, and we're going very soon, and we're going to stay on this theme, and we're going to play you out with another victim. A victim called David Temple. David Temple, his brother, a young 15-year-old, maybe 16, he was delivering milk, and he was blown up in a time frame which was known as the Claudy bombings. And we're going to let you hear David explaining about, the loss of the brother, and how that it is that they're still fighting for justice, and how that it is that the Catholic Church were involved in this. That a guy called Father Chesney was spirited away by the then RUC at the request of, who knows, the security services in Northern Ireland, and he was spirited away by over the border to protect him from prosecution. What type of a society are we living in when these people can't be charged, made amenable for the crimes that they have created, killing children, murdering children, and yet people still today want to glorify these murderous, terrorist scum? Because that's what they are. They are no more, they are no less, and they shouldn't have a place in any normal society. So let's look at something before that we play us out with David Temple. We're not going to be playing us out with any music this evening. I'm going to ask people to give us a like, to give us a love, to give us a share, to make it known that you're here this evening. If you're new to the channel, make sure that you leave a little note in the live chat. Leave us your thoughts. Tell us what you think. Tell us if you think this is acceptable. I see that there's quite a few people watching on YouTube this evening. Also, there's some people on the Twitter channel. And if you're on Twitter watching, share the channel, please. Share it on YouTube. Share it on the Facebook channels. Let as many people see this as humanly possible. But first, we want to take a look at something. And this, I guess, is a precursor to where that it is that we, as Restore UK, are going next. And whilst that our politicians, whilst that they turn a blind eye to this, they utter a few words, then the needle returns to the start of the song, and we're meant to all sing along like before. Well, whilst this happens, we're going to give you a precursor into what is happening behind closed doors, what is happening in plain sight if you care to look, and how that it is that it's all cozy in one place, whilst those that should be in opposition to each other, whilst they all have their feet under this table, and they're all creating peace together under this glorifying of IRA terrorism. Some from within our community are happy to head up a group which incorporates a lot of these people that would continuously add insult to the injury of victims. Let's share on the screen, and we will be going here within the next couple of weeks, because we're still preparing a documentary style expose on some things that we're not happy with, that's going on from within our own community, and at a time whenever these terrorists continue to glorify their terrorism. Well, whenever they do that, ask a question. Should any self-respecting unionist be dealing with these people? Should any self-respecting unionist be anywhere near these people? Should any self-respecting unionist be working with these people? Should there be a complete redraw of this entire appeasement process? Should there be a level playing field? Why, oh, why are our politicians continuing to push the boundaries, in one man's words? Why are they pushing the boundaries to work with these parasites that will not get off the backs of ordinary people in the society which is called Northern Ireland today in 2022? Why would any unionist seek to work with these people whenever they continue to add insult to the unionist community? So I'm going to share a screen, and if you bear with me for a moment or two, I'm going to place up on the screen a little picture. Now, I'm just going to enhance this, if you just bear with me for a second or two. Now, what you'll see in front of you is you see a website. They call it the democracyandpeace.org. This is the Centre for Democracy and Peace Building, which, from my recollection, is located in North Belfast. Now, home, it says here, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. And this is a quote from Albert Einstein. You know, if we were to go down this website, as you can see, well, what you're seeing in front of your eyes is, it says, the purpose for the Centre for Democracy and Peace Building is to uphold and share the values and principles of democracy in order to build peace, stability, and reconciliation. And I want to quote that again, because this is the anchor of this entire website. The purpose of the Centre for Democracy and Peace Building is to uphold and share the values and the principles of democracy in order to build peace in a stable and stability and reconciliation. Our vision is to remove fear from and offer hope to divided communities and to create a society with shared sense of responsibility, opportunity, and community. Our aim is to support the Northern Ireland peace process and at the same time share our experiences within the international community. So people, what you have here effectively is you have the Centre for Democracy and Peace Building on this screen to that side of me. And now what we're going to do is that we're going to go and we're going to look at some of the players in this Centre for Democracy and Peace Building, which is, well, as you would have heard just there, which is geared towards the purpose of the Centre for Democracy and Peace Building is to uphold and to share. That, bear with me for a second, I'll have to enhance this to myself. The purpose of the Centre for Democracy and Peace Building is to uphold and share the values and principles of democracy in order to build peace and stability and reconciliation. So again, we're just putting that down. Now, let's look at some of the players in this Centre for Democracy and Peace Building. Let's look at the team. So we're clicking onto the team here, and you'll see our team, and we can see people like John Alderdice, chairman of the Centre for Democracy and Peace Building. So it says here that we are delighted that Lord Alderdice, following his retirement from the Centre for Democracy and Peace Building Board of Directors, has accepted the honorary role of chairman. Then we have a lady called Baroness Ritchie of Downpatrick, who is the chair. And we go down. Right, okay. And then we notice the Right Honourable Sir Geoffrey Donaldson. And we notice that in this Centre for Democracy and Peace Building that wants to build peace and share experiences and reconciliation in this stable society, we see that, what is it that Jeffrey Donaldson is from within this centre? It says that Sir Jeffrey Donaldson is the director of this Centre for Democracy and Peace Building. We have another director here, a man called Chris McCabe. We have a lady called Eva Grossman, who is the chief executive. And we have another guy called Niall Johnston, who is also a director. And, well, as you go down, you can see other people. You can see people like Stacey King, who's a senior advisor. And we have, from my knowledge, the brother of Alex Maskey, Liam Maskey. We see that he's a senior advisor in this little grouping. So that's the team, and we see that our own Jeffrey Donaldson is the director of this team. So then what we're going to do is that we're going to click into what is known as a fellowship program from within the Centre for Democracy and Peace. And we're going to look at this fellowship program, and we're going to look at, it says here, home, about, who's the partners. So let's look at the partners of the Centre for Democracy and Peace Building. So let's click on it and see who let's say, for example, the funders would be. And we click on this and we scroll down, and we would notice that, it looks like the main partner, or the main funder, perhaps, is the Department of Irish Foreign Affairs. Department of Foreign Affairs. You'll see it here in front of you with the little harp. You'll see that the Irish American Partnership is another partner in the Centre for Democracy and Peace Building. So we're now going to go back onto the partners list. And what we want to do is that we want to move along, and we want to go along, and there's an advisory board. And then there's a section which says that it's alumni. So let's have a look at that, and let's see who's involved in the 2021-2022 group, which is the alumni, which is a lady called Tanya Anderson. We have Aaron Callan. Okay, so Aaron is a serving DUP councillor on Causeway Coast and Glens Borough Council. Okay. So Aaron's building peace with these Sinn Féiners. We're playing Maskey. We have a lady called Michelle Canning, which is to do with Niagara. We have Jackie, Code, a member of the Lions Party. We have Julie Ann Core Johnston, which is a member of the Ulster Unionist Party. Let's flip on down. We have, Erin Culleton, which is Erin is a principal officer in the Department of Health, Northern Ireland. Louise Cunningham, she's to do with business marketing. Then we have the executive director, Chief Executives Forum, and is a member of the NI Civil Service. We head on down this list. Brian Donaldson, don't know who he is. Connie Egan. Then we see, here's John Finucane. Within this list, under the directorship of Jeffrey Donaldson. John Finucane, part of the Sinn Féin party, which is responsible for adding insult to the injury of victims, which is responsible for adding insult to the injury of the Unionist community on a daily basis, which is responsible for indoctrinating these children. We heard it from Mary Lou MacDonald, where she won't call a spade a spade. She won't say that this terrorist organization, the IRA, for their murder, their mayhem, for their slaughter of innocent people, she won't say that that's wrong. She says, in a war setting, we have Jeffrey Donaldson. John Finucane seems to be under the directorship of Jeffrey Donaldson from within this little club. And this little club tells you a lot whenever you look into it, and you look into it properly. We'll go on down. We see there's another Democratic Unionist Party councillor, a guy called Peter Johnston. We'll see a guy called Richard Johnston, who is an economist. Lauren Kerr. Lauren is Communications and Policy Officer for the Ulster Unionist Party. Didn't we hear Lauren Kerr just last week contributing to a book And we're going to be talking about that book in the very, very near future. We flip on down, we see Kirsty McManus, we see Peter McReynolds, don't know who he is, Grania Mellon, again, doesn't stick out here. I think that's Rory O'Donnell, which is a member of the SDLP. Then we have Dominic O'Reilly, he's a writer. Then we have Catherine Owen, under the directorship of Jeffrey Donaldson. I know Catherine Owen, and I know Catherine Owen for specific reasons from within the DUP. We have Catherine Owen brought into this Centre for Democracy and Peace along with Jeffrey Donaldson. I know that Jeffrey Donaldson, well, let's just say he's fond of Catherine. He's very fond of Catherine. In fact, that he checked me one day for having it out with Catherine when Catherine was being obnoxious to me. Catherine decided to leave the DUP because she threw her Ratleys and her dummies out of the pram whenever that it was that Edwin Poots was taking over the party. And well, one could only imagine why that it was that she wanted to leave when Edwin was taking charge of the party, and she would have preferred that Jeffrey Donaldson was in charge. But now she seems to be, Catherine Owen has been a DUP councillor, has been a councillor since October for the district of Riallan with the Council of Newry, Morning Down. So it just says here she's a councillor. It doesn't say that she's a DUP councillor. Maybe that's because that she left the party, but as far as I know, she's back in the party again. So look, people, what you're looking at here is, and let's just get back to this, let's kick this from the screen and stop sharing. What we have, right, we have working in the background a thing called the Centre for Democracy and Peace. We have Sinn Féin orchestrating the circumstances in where that children are indoctrinated and they're adding insult to the injury of the people from within our community. We have the circumstances in where that the leader of Sinn Féin, she will not allow the IRA terrorists to be criminalised. She's saying that it was a war. Well, if it was a war, let's take them to war crimes should follow. That's what should happen. We should look at all the crimes in where that they broke the Geneva Convention, and they should be in court and charged for the things that they done. But here we have the circumstances in where that we have a cozy little setup under the directorship of Jeffrey Donaldson, working with these people. And what was it that it said? Let me just look again to be absolutely sure about what this group is all about. As I go back down this screen again, it's about what I'm looking for. If you just bear with me for a second. God, excuse me, I can't find my way back to the place that I was before. But what I'm aiming to say here is, should any self-respecting unionist be working with these people whilst that they're glorifying terrorism, whilst that they're adding insult to the injury of victims from within our community, whilst that they pretend not to be involved, let's say, in Stormont? This operation still goes on. This operation that is funded by the Irish Department for Foreign Affairs, which is funded by American sources. Should unionist politicians be involved with these people in any way, shape, and form whenever they're continuing to glorify terrorism? Now we ask the very serious question. Jeffrey Donaldson, director of the Centre for Democracy and Peace. And this is a question for all unionists. Up the Ra, forget about the innocent victims. Just forget about them. Let's pretend that they don't exist. Up the Ra, forget about the victims. Add insult to the injury of to the victims' families and those that are left behind. Should Sir Geoffrey, should he be facilitating the glorification of terrorism? And I say facilitating and I say that specifically and for this reason. Whilst that there's a unionist politician that is happy to work with these people under such circumstances, ask the question, ask yourself the question, will this ever change? Is this ever going to change? Whilst that there are useful idiots from within our community that are happy to work with these parasites, with these terrorist sympathisers, with these people that want to glorify terrorism at every single turn. Chris Hazard's office, Newry Morn, named after Megorian and McNulty Advice Centre. I'm told just today there's another advice centre now in Donegal, in the south. People in the south turning a blind eye. You heard David Kelly when he was talking about his father Patrick Kelly, an innocent IRA, an innocent army official, Irish army operative, when he was murdered by the IRA, when he went to free an Irish citizen. And yet they add insult to the injury of David. They add insult to the injury of the victims in Northern Ireland, in Southern Ireland, in England, Scotland, and Wales. And they can do this with impunity. But here's the real question, people. And this is the thing that I want you to leave your messages in the live chat. This is the real serious question. Who do we blame for this? Who do we blame for not nipping this in the bud? Who do we blame for not suggesting that this is totally unacceptable? Who do we blame whenever we see that there are useful idiots from within our community that behind closed doors that are still willing to work with these people whilst they glorify terrorism, whilst they add insult to the injury to the victims, whilst they rub salt into the wounds of the people of Northern Ireland, which has had to endure their terrorism for all of our lives? Who really do we blame? Do we expect any more of Republicans? Well, I know how I'm going to answer that because I don't. I expect Republicans to do what Republicans do. But do I expect people from within our community, so-called leaders, to be facilitating this, to be turning a blind eye to this, to be paying lip service to this? Well, whilst that happens, it'll continue every single year. Nothing will change. The victims will still be re-traumatized. They'll still be singing Ooh Ah Up the Ra in Falls Park. They'll still be singing and glorifying shooting missiles at helicopters in South Armagh. They'll still be singing in a way that they suggest that this is some type of culture, this glorification of terrorism. Well, they'll still be glorifying terrorism whilst that there's useful idiots from within our community who are prepared to let things blow over and, well, pretend that it didn't happen. I hope that you got some stuff out of this screen this evening. I hope you understood what it is that we were here to talk about. I hope you feel as appalled as I do, as we do here at Restore. As I say, I've very personal experience at the start of July on the way to Greece, where a group of young people, they started singing on the bus. You know, how have we ever got to that stage in Northern Ireland? Who do you blame? I certainly know who I blame. The IRA, the terrorist sympathisers, the glorifiers of terrorism, they will do what they do, and that I expect. But I certainly don't expect any member of the Unionist community to be working alongside it and to be facilitating it. Coming soon, an expose of a lifetime from within Northern Ireland, the appeasement process, how that it is that useful idiots are being used to well, provide the illusion of cross-community support. We have to talk about this. We have to expose this. We have to stand up for innocent victims. We have to do what right-minded people should do in a society that they care about, in where that the democracy has been removed from, well, Unionists, as an appeasement process continues, but on a one-sided basis. People, thanks very much for coming along. And, you know, so that we don't destroy what it is that we've just done, I want to play you out with the words of a victim, a man called David Temple, whose brother was murdered, was slaughtered in a set of bombings known as the Claudy bombings. Thanks very much for coming along. And please share this. Please give us a like. Please give us a love. Please give us a share. Please tag people into the live chat in order that they can see what it is that you just seen. Once again, thanks for coming to Restore UK. We'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.
I lost my brother in Claudy in 1972, 31st of July. Claudy is one of the controversial killings in the Troubles. As you know yourself, 1972 was one of the worst years in the Troubles, and there was a priest involved in it. The Northern Ireland office, they tried to hide the priest, and they communicated with the Roman Catholic Church, the Irish government, to try and hide him, put him somewhere away safe. There's nobody's come forward and said what part they played in this. This is why, at the present minute, some of the Claudy families are heading down a legal route, John, to get answers to these questions. That is why Claudy is so controversial, because it involves the Roman Catholic Church, the Northern Ireland office, and Martin McGuinness. Martin McGuinness was invited to meet the Claudy families. He never, ever turned up for it. We will never give up. My father died, John, 4 years after losing his son. My mother passed away there 3 years ago, never getting answers to her son's death. I hope this day, I pray, that I'll be able to see the end of this and get the answers for some of the Claudy families. The questions, John, you know this, would need to be answered. But I hope I live long enough, John, to get these answers. If I don't, I have another brother to take my place.